Welcome back to the C2E2 live stage. How's everyone doing on the last day at C2E2? All right, my name is Caitlin Bush. I will be your host for the foreseeable short future. I'm the Associate Features Editor at SYFY WIRE. And we are having a good time here this weekend. We are your best location for all news, movies, features, interviews, podcasts, videos of all of the genre things that you love. We love everything that you love just as much as you do. And I am joined on stage today by the great Chris Claremont, who, if you don't know all of the titles in which are assigned to him,
they all begin with the letter X.
Yes. Everything with the letter X. He took Uncanny X-Men to be one of the best-selling and most popular series in Marvel when it was originally not doing so well. He brought it back into the fold. You are an Eisner Award Hall of Famer, and you are currently returning with Marvel Comics Presents #5 to the Cross-Time Caper with Nightcrawler.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can you tell us a little bit about your return?
Basically, as with all things at Marvel, an editor called up and said, "Would you like to write this story?" And I said, "Yes." So I wrote the story, and then that led to another story, which is leading apparently to another story and another story, but that's the way it goes. You know, it's a symbiotic relationship. Very rarely do you go in and say, "I've got a great idea," because when you do that, editors kind of go, huh? They like to have the idea first, and they bring it to the writers, and then we make it work.
Now, you kind of always seem to have an inherent understanding of these characters. You helped kind of add more to them than they had had before in the past. What was it that had made you realize that comics needed to be more rounded out, that the characters needed more?
Well, from the very beginning, as I learned my craft as a writer, the key thing that was taught, I guess, is if you're going to steal from real life. If you're going to create a character, the tools you use to make that character real, in quotes, are the lives you see around you, the people you listen to on the street, the emotions you see on faces and bodies while you're sitting these days in a Starbucks watching the world go by. You filter all that information, that raw material, into your head, and it synergizes into the character you want to create. So basically, we're really good thieves. What we're stealing is the bits of life and personality and character and emotion that we see in, for want of a better term, all you people around us. And if we're lucky, that all comes together in a really good mix.
And Nightcrawler is one of the characters that you helped do that with originally, and you're returning to him. What is it that you find so compelling about that character?
Well, the thing is that in Nightcrawler, you have a character who looks like the quintessential embodiment of a demon. And as he was originally conceived, that was the direction he was thought to go in. And what Dave Cockrum, the artist who designed him and the first artist on the X-Men back in God help me, 74, when he started and Len Wein started putting this together, and then in 75 when I came in as writer, we wanted to try and find something different. So if you've got someone who looks like a monster, who everyone is instantly terrified of him at first sight, what does that instantly, theoretically remind everyone of? Well, the monster from Frankenstein. What was it about Frankenstein? He looked like basically an inspirational man-made puppet, but he had a soul, he had humanity. He was trying to find normal elements of life that theoretically all of us are looking for. It's just he wasn't in the proper package. So what seemed cool and logical to us was, if you look at most superheroes, most super characters, they acquire their powers in later life, adolescence, something like that. With Kurt, he was born looking the way he looked. So my thought was, if you look like that way from the starting point, you're either going to go crazy right off the bat, or you're going to deal with it. And we decided that Kurt would deal with it. And ironically enough, the route he used to that resolution was faith. For Kurt, it all came down to, I either look this way because I'm a demon, or because God said, dude, you're gonna look this way. And if God decided that, do I do it as an evil person or a good person? Well, if God did it, I must be a good person. Therefore, I will be a good person. And that was the element of his foundation. I am a person of faith because how else could I get to be this way? And if God made me, how can I disrespect God by being a schmuck? Pardon me. So it was the most normal, natural progression, and it worked brilliantly. And the thing with Kurt is, in his heart of hearts, he wants to be Errol Flynn. He wants to be a swashbuckler. He wants to kick the living daylights out of bad guys with a sword, actually with 3 swords, using his tail as well. And he wants to be a romantic lead, and he wants to save the day, and he wants to be friends with everyone. The only trouble is the first person he ends up being friends with is Logan. On the other hand, he's a person of faith, so he figures, this is the biggest challenge ever. How can I take this short little twerp and make him a decent human being? And as far as Logan's concerned, he's a nice guy, I'll hang with him. And it worked. But that's what putting characters together in comics is like, the same as it is in TV series or movies. You find the right mix of characters. It's just, in media, you have to find the right actor, the right person to fit the role. You have to find Hugh Jackman to play Wolverine. And wow, it works from there. As a writer, sadly, you just have to go from compartment to compartment inside your head and steal a bit from compartment A, a bit from compartment B, mix it up, and hope you've got the right idea at the end. And now you know why writers are paid by the word.
No, I love it. And since you're returning to the cross-time caper with Kurt, with Nightcrawler, what do you think bringing him back to the 80s versus telling a story within present day adds to his character?
Well, it's a short story, so we have to get on, say our piece and get off really quickly. I would like them to think this is a decent guy. This is a guy with a sense of humor. This is a guy who, out of nowhere, is about to discover potential secrets about his past he never dreamed of in my run or anyone else's. And the conclusion is, what are you going to do about it? The end result in the story is Kitty says, we're going to be here for overnight. Let's go walk the town and have fun. And being Nightcrawler, he says, okay.
And since you did quite a bit of work in the 80s, do you see a difference between the comics industry then and now? And what is it like to write a story that takes place within that time?
I think from a purely technical standpoint, in the 80s there was more variety and freedom in that the artists we had available to us were far more fluid and relaxed storytellers. We dealt mostly with presenting the story to the artist as a plot, and we trusted the artist's ability to tell stories, to break it down into panels and pages. This was how Stan worked with Jack Kirby. This is how I worked with John Byrne, how I worked with Salvador La Roca, among many, 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 many others. And from a creative standpoint, it's a lot of fun. It's a synergy. The best ideas of the writer team with the best ideas of the artist. The artist's talent inspires the writer's talent focuses the storytelling of the artist. When you do a full script, it's much easier from the editor's standpoint because you've got the whole story in front of you. But when you're dealing with a gifted storyteller, like, for example, Bill Sienkiewicz, to me, it's a waste of time. Telling him what to do panel by panel by panel denies the opportunity to watch him strut his stuff and then exploit that. In a way, doing a plot first and evolving the story is like listening to jazz players jam or rock players jam. We're just following the music and improvising. Whereas full scripts are totally structured and it's all locked in from the start. It will come out looking brilliant sometimes, but it loses, to me anyway, that element of freedom, of effervescence, of, again, inspiration that I, as a reader, loved. That's the kick that got me in hooked with FF48 back in the dawn of time, and I kept coming back because the synergy of Jack Kirby's brilliant storytelling and Stan Lee's ability as a writer to hone it all together into a coherent, finished product was just irresistible.
And unfortunately, that is all of the time that we have. But thank you for your answers. Chris Claremont, everyone. And you can follow along on Twitter online using hashtag C2E2 and hashtag It's a Fan Thing. Up next is Jim Cornette Live.